Hey, we're here with legendary Steve Hess. Last episode we talked about his beginnings in the monster truck world, how he started out with a show truck and then just kind of got some opportunities laid out. So tell us about when you was building the second truck. I mean, or the first, so it was the first monster truck, but it was called Nitemare II, but that thing was just a showpiece. I mean, it was unbelievable.
It was. We bought a brand new 86 truck, and brand new. It was a 6-cylinder, 3-speed on the tree, bare bone, AM radio, that was it. And took it home, took the body off, and we took the stock frame and took 3x5 angle, 1/4 inch thick, and boxed that frame identical, matched the GM frame identical with that. We welded the frame together, the mounts for the springs. We ground the frame, all the welds down. Not that the welds were bad, but I wanted it to look just like you went to a Chevrolet store and you were looking at a stock truck. And it was stock frame completely. So, which in the end was a blessing and a disguise. And yeah,
Well, it was beautiful. I remember just, blown away, because when we'd see you perform with it, and then you would see how beautiful it was. It was just, because that was kind of when the monster truck stuff started to go away from the show truck stuff.
It did, yeah. That was the last year that Special Events had the event where there was the spring, summer, and fall jamborees, and we had competition between show and shine, pit stops, and racing. And it ended up that year in the finals, when we went into the finals in the fall in Indianapolis, there was 5 points separating Bigfoot and me on that show, and that's what pulled me through, was my show and shine. I beat him by 5 points. We took second place in the race, second place in competition, and we took first place in that, and it gave me 5 points advantage over Bigfoot, which I still have the Super Bowl ring from that time.
So yeah, and that was a pretty big deal. You got a ring and got a big trophy.
It was, yeah.
And what they call it, the Triple Crown?
Triple Crown.
It was a neat deal.
Yeah, it was the last year they did that.
Yeah,
so.
And they even had like the pit stop.
They did.
We had to change a tire.
Just like NASCAR, we rolled in there and you had to change a left front tire, put it back on, and your pit guy, you had one pit guy and yourself, you jumped out, helped him take the tire completely off. We had to be away from the truck and back on, and then we had to run another 50, 60 feet.
And one of your pit guy forever was Brian Kahn.
Brian Kahn, yeah.
A lot of the guys that come to the Hall of Fame see Brian because he's been around. And then he actually went on later to drive for Bigfoot.
Yeah, actually when I sold the truck, the last truck to Dabney, he actually ran it the first weekend at Buchanan, Michigan, and rolled it over trying to do a donut in a mud pit. So that's low going down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that truck.
That'll be a good interview when I interview Brian one of these days. He can tell that story.
But that truck was just superb. For that era, the springs, the movement of that worked really well. I love doing tractor pulls because I was involved with a lot of tractor pullers and four-wheel truck pulls. So we did a lot of pulling the sled there. So we were back here in Fort Wayne at Bear Field. We're going to do a show out there. There was half a dozen of us trucks out there, and I came up to the finals, and I launched off the first set, and when I landed in the second set, the right front tire landed in a Vista Cruiser wagon. If you remember the old wagons that had the windows up in the top and the back, and when that tire hit that Vista Cruiser, the roof caved in and it stopped instantly. And of course I had my hands on the steering wheel and it cracked my wrist. I didn't know what it hurt. That's all I knew about. Adrenaline was going, so we finished, obviously that night we broke the truck down and my wrist is killing me. Well, when we went to break the truck down, all of a sudden the truck's bent like this. I'm like, oh. And I was supposed to, I had 3 days to be in Canada. We were pulling a sled up in Canada. And I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So we have a huge alignment shop in Fort Wayne called Fox and Fox. I called him and I'm like, I've got a truck that I've got a frame bent on it. You think you can fix it? And he's like, what kind it is? I said, well, it's an 86 Chevy, but it's just a little bit bigger than And I said, but I'm telling you, it's the same frame as you find in a stock truck. He's like, well, if you can bring it up here, we'll see if we can pull it straight. And I said, we'll be there in a couple hours with it. So we took it up, I dropped it off. He's like, just leave it with me and we'll see what we can do. I said, all right. So from there, I went to the hospital and figured out my wrist was cracked. I put a cast on it.
And that was back before anybody knew anything about crossover relief valves in the steering, which saves you. You know, I remember driving one of my earlier trucks that I drove for somebody, and I remember when you'd hit the cars, you'd just let go of the steering wheel because it would turn wherever it wanted to turn.
It turns
That's a
so
scary
fast.
thing.
Yeah, it turns so fast it just cracked that wrist.
So talking about that, it wasn't too far after that, I don't think, when you helped kind of form the MTRA. Tell us a little bit about that, the Monster Truck Racing Association, for those of you who don't know about the MTRA.
We did, with the safety, it was obvious this sport was going to continue to grow and we were getting more and more trucks. We were in Hamburg, New York, and there was about 12 trucks up there, and one truck got out of control and got really close to the crowd, and we were all, and so on my way home, Bill Weaver called me and said, Steve, we got to do something. We got to come up with some kind of safety organization, kind of like what NASCAR or NHRA has. We need a sanctioned body that kind of oversees and sets some rules and some safety things for our truck. He says, well, Bob Chandler, can you give him a call when you get back home and see what you can come up with? So I did, and I called Bob and I said, hey, our sport's continuing to grow. We're getting more and more trucks. We would like to maybe get together with 6, 8, 10 drivers, come to St. Louis, it's kind of a central point for everybody in the United States, and let's talk about possibly setting up a sanctioned body that we can kind of govern the monster trucks. And so that's where it started. I flew out to St. Louis, Jerry Richmond flew out, Bill Weaver flew out, and we had other drivers there. George Carpenter come in, which is a Hall of Fame member. And so we started putting our heads together and putting stuff down on paper, and that's kind of the conception of, in November, we started talking about it, and in January, we kind of set up some basic rules and regulations, dry shaft loops, safety valves, things that were making our, better seat belts. I can remember racing somebody in Goshen, Indiana, had a sunroof in his truck, but it was him and I in the finals, and we were lined up together, and we hit the first set of cars together, and we were pretty even. And all of a sudden, I look over, and this driver's head is about this far above his cab of his truck. He had forgot to put his seatbelts on. And a good friend of mine, and we're not related, but you all know Scott Hess with Barefoot and how he drove, and he was possessed, he couldn't lose, but we hit the final set of cars, I did, and then we both landed at the finish line, and I think they gave the win to me, but it had to be a tie. I remember getting out there at that show, and of course that's when we didn't have fire shoes and we had blue jeans and t-shirt on, and I had cowboy boots on. I stepped out on that roll bar and I went out and flapped down on my rear end right in front of the crowd, right in his grandstand. So, and of course Scott was just laughing his fool head off, one going through the roof, because he had a nice sunroof in that show truck. Yeah, so I wasn't the only one that had bling on my truck.
Well, it's been fun. Subscribe if you're enjoying these, and catch us on the next episode.